Welcome to another story from A Cause of Family. They thought the fire ended everything, but it didn't. Here is where it began.
Hi, I'm Kane. I woke up in a hospital bed, the smell of smoke still tangled in my hair. My father was sitting by my side, eyes red, voice breaking as he said, "Your mother didn't make it. You're the only one who survived." But something about the way he said it didn't feel right. It was too calm, too measured, like he was hiding something. And then a detective stepped closer, lowered his voice, and asked me, "Ma'am, are you ready to hear the truth about your father?" What truth? What could he possibly mean? And why do I feel like this fire wasn't the end of our story, but the beginning of something far worse? Before I take you through everything that happened, tell me, what time is it where you are, and where are you listening from? The first thing I noticed wasn't the pain. It was the smell. Sharp antiseptic clinging to my skin like guilt. The hospital lights were too bright, washing everything white, like the world had been erased. I tried to move, but my arm felt heavy, pinned by invisible chains. Machines hummed softly beside me, counting each breath I didn't earn. Then a shadow moved. My father. Sitting at the edge of the bed, head in his hands. Gareth Blake, always controlled, always sharp, looked broken. Or maybe just pretending. "You're awake," he whispered, his voice cracking. He reached for my hand, fingers trembling. "Kane, sweetheart." And then it came. The pause. The pause that split my life in two. "Your mom didn't make it. You're the only one who survived." The words didn't hit me like thunder. They floated above me, heavy, unreal. I wanted to cry, scream, something, but all I could do was stare at the ceiling tiles, counting holes like they could hold me together. Why me? Why not her? He kept talking, smoothing his voice into something calm, practiced. "We'll get through this together. I'll take care of everything." It sounded like comfort. It felt like a script. I turned away and saw it. The scarf. Red, folded on the chair. Mom wore it everywhere, even in summer. Her last words replayed in my head like a curse. "You forgive too easily, Kane. One day you'll see what I mean." A knock broke the silence. A man stepped in. Gray suit, lined face, eyes that didn't flinch. "Ms. Blake," he said gently. "I'm Detective Johnson. I'm sorry for your loss, but—" He hesitated, then locked eyes with me. "There's something you need to know." My father stiffened. "She's not strong enough for this," he snapped. The detective ignored him. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Ma'am, are you ready to hear the truth about him?" "The truth? About who?" "Your father," Johnson said. "We believe the fire wasn't an accident, and your mother's death may not be what it seems." My breath froze. My pulse hammered against the machine's steady beeps. I shook my head. No, you're wrong. But deep down, I wasn't sure anymore. I didn't leave my bed for 2 days after Gareth erased the recording. Not because I was afraid, though fear was there, coiled like smoke, but because of the hollow weight pressing down on me. Useless. That's what I felt. Like no matter what I did, he'd always be 2 steps ahead. I used to think collecting proof was enough. That one solid recording would crack the cage I'd been raised in. But I was wrong. On the 3rd morning, I woke up with a different resolve. No more head-on fights. No more screaming into walls that only echoed his voice back at me. If Gareth wanted obedience, I'd hand it to him, gift-wrapped. And while he believed the illusion, I'd move in silence. So I played my part. The obedient daughter. The one too broken to rebel. I started waking up early, fixing breakfast, setting his coffee exactly the way he liked it. Black, no sugar, steaming but never scalding. The first time I did it, he stared at me for a long moment, suspicion flickering behind those calculating eyes. Then came the smirk, slow and smug. "See? We're getting back to normal," his tone said without words. I smiled softly and nodded. Then I turned away before the rage burning behind my ribs could show. That night, while he nursed his whiskey in the leather chair, I memorized the rhythm of his life. When he locked the safe. When he showered. When he made those late-night calls in the bathroom with the faucet running just loud enough to mask his voice. Or so he thought. I tried once to check his phone after he fell asleep on the couch. No password. Wide open. Which should have been comforting, but it wasn't. Every app was scrubbed clean. Call logs? Empty. Messages? Deleted. Gareth didn't just cover his tracks, he burned the whole map. So I changed tactics. If I couldn't find what he was hiding, I'd make him hand it to me, without knowing. During dinner, I started asking small questions. Innocent ones. Do you think we'll move? The house feels different now. Or, did Mom ever talk about leaving Raleigh? His answers were clipped, but I caught the twitch in his jaw, the way his hand tightened on the fork whenever her name slipped into the air like a ghost. Every word became a breadcrumb, and I was learning to follow the trail. But deep down, I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed an ally, a shield. And the only name circling my mind was Detective Johnson. He hadn't reached out since that day in the hospital, after the failed recording. Maybe he thought I'd gone quiet. Maybe he thought I gave up. But I hadn't, not even close. That night, after Gareth went upstairs, I sat on the floor of my room with the only thing that still smelled like safety. Mom's red scarf. I pressed it to my face, breathing in the ghost of her perfume, and felt the words from her letter burn under my skin. Don't trust anyone who tells you to stay quiet. I whispered to the empty room. I won't, Mom, I swear I won't. My eyes fell on the old floorboard near the bed, the one that creaked when I stepped too close. For years, I thought it was just bad carpentry. But now, I wondered. Heart pounding, I pried it loose with the edge of a nail file. Beneath it, dust and splinters. And then, plastic. A flash drive, small and plain, tucked into the hollow like a secret heartbeat. I didn't know what was on it. Photos? Emails? A confession Mom never had time to say out loud? My fingers trembled as I held it up to the light, my reflection warped on its black surface. And for the first time since the fire, I felt something close to power. Not enough to win. Not yet, but enough to keep breathing. Enough to keep fighting. I stared at the flash drive like it might detonate in my hand. Mom left this for a reason, and I knew whatever was on it could shatter everything. The house was silent, except for the grandfather clock ticking like a countdown. When Gareth's bedroom door finally shut upstairs, I slipped out, my bare feet gliding over the cold wood floor toward his study. Locked. Of course. But Gareth always underestimated me. He hid the key inside the hollow brass globe on the side table, a detail I'd filed away weeks ago. The lock clicked open with a sound that felt deafening. Inside, the room smelled like leather and expensive whiskey. His laptop sat open on the desk, glowing faintly. No password. Because Gareth didn't think anyone would dare. I plugged in the flash drive. A single folder appeared. Colin. My heart stuttered as I clicked. First came letters, unsent drafts to me, to Mom. Words like leverage and asset leapt off the screen like knives. Then financial records, insurance policies in Mom's name, all naming him as sole beneficiary. And then the subfolder, reset, photos of our house, notes scribbled in the margins, accelerant placement, entry points, collapse time. My lungs locked. The fire wasn't an accident. It was a blueprint. He killed her. I ripped the flash drive free just as I heard it, the soft groan of a floorboard outside. The door opened. Kaylin. His voice was low, almost tender. A silhouette in the doorway, sharp and shadowed. Couldn't sleep? My fingers dug into the flash drive hidden in my sweater pocket. Just water, I whispered. He stepped inside, his eyes sweeping the desk. The laptop wasn't angled right. I knew he saw it. But he said nothing. Instead, he closed the door behind him. The click sounded like a gun cocking. Strange hour for water. His tone was velvet over steel. I forced a brittle laugh, tried to pass him, but his hand shot out, wrapping around my wrist. Not tight. Not yet. just enough to pin me in place. "You're hiding something," he said. Not a question. My throat went dry. "I'm tired," I murmured. He studied me, eyes dark and patient, before releasing me with a slow smile that made my stomach turn. "Get some rest," he said softly. "Big day tomorrow. Big day." The words scraped like broken glass as I slipped back to my room, locked the door, and collapsed against it, heart pounding so loud I thought it would wake the whole house. I yanked out the burner phone from under my mattress and dialed Johnson. "You okay?" His voice was gravel, urgent. "I have proof," I whispered, clutching the flash drive like a rosary. "The fire, the money, everything." "Good, listen to me. Don't let him know. We'll get you out first thing." "What if I don't make it till morning?" My voice cracked. "You will," he said firmly. "You're not alone anymore." I killed the call and sat in the dark, every creak in the house a scream in my ears. Morning couldn't come fast enough. But it didn't come first. At 3:17 a.m. my door opened. And this time, he didn't knock. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, Johnson's words echoing in my head. Fight him with the truth. Every bone in my body wanted to run, but something else, something fiercer, kept me rooted. I wasn't going to live my life under his shadow anymore. By dawn, I was ready. Not with strength. God knows I didn't feel strong, but with a plan. I called Johnson on the burner phone he'd given me. My voice was steady, which surprised me. "I'm in," I whispered. "You understand the risk?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "I understand what happens if I don't." We went over everything twice. The wire, the script, how to keep him talking until the team moved in. "He trusts his ego," Johnson said. "Use it. Let him brag. He'll bury himself." At 7 a.m., I walked into the kitchen like it was any other morning. My hair brushed, a mug of coffee in my hands, like nothing had changed. Gareth glanced up from the stove, flipping eggs like a man without a care in the world. "Morning, sweetheart," he said smoothly. I forced a smile. "Morning, Dad. Can we talk about everything?" He froze for half a beat, then turned, eyebrows raised. "Finally," he said with a smirk. "You're ready to stop fighting me." I followed him to his study, the place that always smelled like leather and lies. The door clicked shut behind me. My heart hammered so loud I was sure the wire could pick it up. I sat across from him, keeping my voice soft, submissive, the daughter he thought he'd broken. "I just want to understand," I said. "Why the fire? Why Mom?" For a second, his expression darkened, but then his lips curled into that smug half-smile. He leaned back in his chair, spreading his arms like a king holding court. "You don't need to understand," he said coldly. "You need to accept. Accept that without me, you're nothing. You and your mother were leverage, tools. I did what I had to do." My throat tightened, but I didn't flinch. "And the fire?" I whispered. He chuckled, a low, dark sound that made my skin crawl. "Insurance," he said simply. "A reset. You don't get ahead by playing nice. Your mother never understood that." Every word was a knife, but I kept nodding like I agreed. Kept him talking. "And miss?" I asked softly. His eyes flickered, just for a moment, before he smirked. "You've always been too curious for your own good," he said, leaning forward. "But curiosity kills, sweetheart." That was it. The line that sealed his fate. The door slammed open and Johnson's voice boomed like thunder. "Gareth Morgan, you're under arrest." 2 officers swarmed in. Gareth shot to his feet, fury blazing in his eyes. "You little snake!" He spat at me as they cuffed his wrists. "You think this makes you free? You'll regret this every day." I stood slowly, legs shaking but unbroken. "No," I said quietly. "I regret ever letting you own me." As they dragged him out, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Not joy, not even relief. Just a deep, bone-deep certainty. This part of the story was finally over. Or so I thought. Because when I stepped into the hallway, I saw her. Miss, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, lips curled into a smirk that promised this wasn't the end. 6 months later, I woke up to the sound of rain tapping softly against my window. Portland rain, the kind that doesn't demand attention, just lingers like an old friend. I sat up slowly, letting the gray morning light spill across my small apartment. My apartment. Mine. Not his. Not ours. Just mine. On the windowsill sat my mother's red scarf, folded neatly. It caught the light like a stubborn flame, refusing to fade. That scarf had survived more than either of us should have. I touched it gently, the fibers warm under my fingers, and whispered, "We made it." A lot had happened since the day they took Gareth away in handcuffs. The trial was long and brutal. Every headline felt like ripping open an old wound. Prominent businessman. Charged with arson and fraud. People whispered, cameras flashed, but I showed up to every hearing. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed him to see me. Unbroken. The day the judge said life in prison, something inside me loosened. Not everything, but enough to let me breathe without choking on the past. Gareth stood there smaller than I'd ever seen him, shackled and silent. No threats, no smirks, just a man who finally lost the only thing he'd ever loved: control. But freedom doesn't come gift-wrapped in a courtroom sentence. It's not instant, and it's not easy. It's a slow, grinding climb out of the rubble. And sometimes the silence after a storm is the loudest sound in the world. I started therapy. At first, I hated it. Sitting in a chair, talking about scars no one could see. It felt like digging in the dirt of a burned-down house. But little by little, I found pieces of myself buried there. Pieces worth saving. I joined a survivors group too. Women who knew what it was like to have the ground pulled out from under them. We sat in a circle and told truths we'd been taught to keep quiet. And for the first time, I realized silence was never strength. Speaking was. My business grew. Just a small design firm, logos, layouts, branding. But every project reminded me I could build things that didn't collapse when someone lit a match. On a rainy April morning, I drove to the cemetery. The headstone was simple. Her name, 2 dates too close together. I knelt in the damp grass, the scarf in my hand. "I lived, Mom," I whispered, "and I'll keep living. For us both." I tied the scarf to a low branch near her grave, watching it ripple like a flag of survival. Before I left, I thought about everything I'd lost and everything I'd reclaimed. Sometimes family is the one that hurts you most. But survival? Survival is louder than their lies. If you've ever felt trapped, if someone tried to rewrite your story, don't let them. Speak. Fight with the truth. Because silence doesn't protect you. It only protects them. What about you? Have you ever walked away from something that was supposed to love you? Tell me in the comments. And remember, your story matters. Always.